The Heisman ceremony is just a few hours away, and I think this year's Heisman race is really compelling. We've got three phenomenal quarterbacks who are up for this award: Julian Sand of Ohio State, Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt, and then of course Fernando Mendoza of Indiana, and all three of these players have excellent cases to win the award. Unfortunately, only one player can win. And in this video, I want to go through each individual player's case to win the Heisman, and I'll give my thoughts on who I think should win, who I would vote for if I was a voter, and who I think will end up winning the award tonight. Like I said, this is a phenomenal Heisman race. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start things off by talking about Julian Sand of Ohio State, a guy that I personally believe is really underrated in the Heisman race. I think it's under-discussed how dominant Sand was this season. He leads the nation in a lot of very important categories. He led all quarterbacks this year in PFF grade. He was second in EPA per touch, EPA meaning expected points added, and he led the #1 passing offense in the nation by EPA per play. And that is a very nice profile right there. In my opinion, Sand is probably the best pure passer in college football right now. He is so good in so many areas, starting with his accuracy. His accuracy and ball placement this year was excellent. He just doesn't throw a lot of inaccurate balls. He doesn't throw deep a ton, and so that is helping some of his accuracy metrics look a little bit better, but still, watching him play, the accuracy is really high level. I think that's very impressive. I also think Sand is an excellent intermediate passer and deep ball passer. When he is asked to throw the ball down the field, he is just fantastic. Very effective. His numbers throwing intermediate and deep passes are out of this world good. He's one of the best intermediate and deep ball passers in college football, and that's excellent. You love to see that. He's also a great decision maker. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way a lot. He also does a good job of avoiding sacks. He's also, and this is kind of unexpected because he's not mobile, but he's really good at extending plays. His production on plays that last longer than 2.5 seconds is excellent. And so although he doesn't scramble a ton, doesn't run a ton, he is really effective when plays kind of extend a little bit, when plays take longer to develop. He's really good at that, and he's really effective in those situations. He doesn't panic. He stays calm in situations like that. And you love to see that, especially from a guy who is a pure pocket passer without a ton of mobility. The one knock on Sand this season, and I've already mentioned it, is his lack of mobility. He just doesn't run a lot. He doesn't scramble outside the pocket a ton, and I think that limits the value that he brings to the table. It limits his playmaking ability, but as we've seen, that didn't keep him from being one of, if not the most efficient quarterback in the nation. He was so good this season, even if he didn't bring much value as a rusher. He was a phenomenal passer, and I think this is just honestly the best pure passing quarterback in the nation this season, and I think people are underrating just how effective Sand was this season. He was excellent. Next up, let's talk about Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, who has had a really fun and unique college career. He was at New Mexico State at one point, now he's with Vanderbilt, and this past season was an excellent one for Pavia. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation this year, ranking top 3 in PFF grade and EPA per touch, and he also led one of the most efficient offenses in the nation this year, Vanderbilt ranking 3rd in EPA per play on passing plays. So he had a wonderful season. I think Pavia is the most unique quarterback of this group. Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sand have very similar play styles, but Pavia, he is a different player. First off, he is really good at generating big-time throws. He doesn't necessarily throw the ball deep a ton, but He's really good at fitting throws into tight windows, generating big plays outside of the pocket. He had a ton of big-time throws this season, 24 to be exact, and he ranked top 3 in big-time throw rate, which is very impressive. And on top of this, he's also a very good intermediate passer. Not as good as Sayan, because Sayan is, arguably the best intermediate passer in college football. But Papia's numbers in this area are still very good, well above average. He's excellent there. And what I think Papia does really well is managing the pocket and avoiding sacks. He is definitely the best playmaker of this group. And when I say he's the best playmaker, I mean he is the most mobile and he is the best as a scrambler. However, he is also really good at staying within the pocket, not taking too many sacks. He doesn't hold on to the ball forever. His pressure to sack rate this year was really good, and he does all of this while having an average depth of target of 9.5 yards, which is well above average. And I think it is so cool to see Pavia perform so well in this area because it is so underrated, but it also helps quarterbacks produce these excellent efficiency marks that we see from all 3 quarterbacks in this Heisman race. A second ago, I mentioned that Pavia is unique for this quarterback group, and the reason why is because of his mobility. This season, he was great as a rusher. He had over 900 rushing yards, and he was the only quarterback in the Heisman race to have over 300 rushing yards. Mendoza and Sayan didn't cross the 300 rushing yard mark. And to add on to this, Pavia was an excellent dual threat quarterback this year. He was the only powerful quarterback in the country with at least 3,000 passing yards and 900 rushing yards. That is incredible. That's awesome. To be honest, I don't think there were many weaknesses in Pavia's game this season. I will say that he is a bit more turnover prone than the other 2 quarterbacks. I don't think he protects the football as well as Mendoza and Sayan. He's not bad in this area, but when you're talking about the Heisman race, you have to split hairs, and that is one area where I think he just isn't quite as good as the other quarterbacks. And I also think he's probably the weakest deep ball thrower of this group, but still, the season he had was really impressive. A lot of people are saying that Pavia should win the Heisman, and if he did, I wouldn't complain at all. He was awesome this year, led one of the top offenses in the nation. I think he's very deserving for this award. And finally, we have Fernando Mendoza, who is just an excellent player. He has had a really cool college career, going from playing at California last season to now he's at Indiana, leading the best team in the nation. And he was really good this year, ranking top 5 in PFF grade and EPA per touch among all quarterbacks in the nation. He also led the number 2 passing offense by EPA per play behind Ohio State. And he has a really similar profile to Julian Sayan. I think Sayan and Mendoza are very similar players. Mendoza, he's very accurate. He's a super efficient pocket passer. I mean, if you look at all the efficiency metrics out there, he is among the best in the nation in all of them. He makes really good decisions, he avoids sacks, and he's very effective throwing the ball down the field. I think there are a lot of areas in which Mendoza is just slightly behind Sayan. I think Sayan is just a more refined pocket passer. But what Mendoza does have over a guy like Sayan, who's a pocket passer, is he provides more mobility, he runs more. He doesn't run a ton, but he does provide more mobility than a guy like Sayan. And he also throws the ball deeper more often. His average depth of target was higher than Sayan's this year, and I think that is a solid advantage for Mendoza. He isn't quite as efficient as Sayan, but he does have a more difficult role, and he does provide more mobility, and that's a big plus. And so a lot of people are rooting for Mendoza to win the Heisman. He's a favorite. He's likely going to win it, and I completely understand why. He just had a phenomenal season. He is arguably the best quarterback in the nation for the best team, and that's a very strong case. So, yeah, I will not be complaining whatsoever when Mendoza wins. He deserves it. He had a phenomenal season this year, and his story is really, really cool. You couldn't pick a better person to win the Heisman. So who would I pick to win this award? You know, if I were a voter and I had to pick a player to win this year's Heisman Award, I personally would go with Julian Sand from Ohio State. Like I've said in this video, I think Diego Pavia and Fernando Mendoza are deserving of this award. You know, no matter who wins the award, I'm not going to complain. They all have excellent cases. I know people are saying that this is a down year for the Heisman race. I think that's accurate, but all three of these players had really strong seasons, even if the counting stats don't look as impressive. And when it comes to Julian Sand, the reason why I would pick him to win the Heisman is he simply was better as a passer than the other two candidates. He led the best passing offense in the nation. I think he was the most efficient of this quarterback group. Leading the nation in PFF grade is really impressive. He also was super efficient in terms of EPA per touch. He had the best passer rating in the country. And I've already talked at length about all the great things he did throwing the football this year and how he is so effective in all these different areas. I think his case is under-discussed. I don't think people realize just how good Sand was this season. And this is kind of off topic, but he was so good this year that I think he is actually looking like a really good NFL prospect and someone who could be drafted #1 overall in the 2027 NFL Draft. But I would pick Julian Sand. However, all of these guys had really excellent seasons, and I think this is the closest Heisman race that we've had in a couple of years. Last year's was really strong with Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty. And this year, Fernando Mendoza looks like the runaway favorite. He's going to end up winning this award. But honestly, all three of these guys performed really well this season, and I think all of them have good cases to win this award.